What an incredible show we have today. Fortunate enough to be in the downtown studio of none other than Norton Wisdom. Thank you so much for inviting us into your studio. It's such a wonderful place to be with such a wonderful artist. So we're going to hear about your story, which is incredible. And thanks a lot. I just want to start with a place of gratefulness, being around all your art, feeling the energy.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there.
Okay.
I'm the one that's honored. I'm such a big fan of yours, young lady, that I just have to say, I'd rather spend the whole time talking about you and what you put together and you as a work of art.
Thank you.
It's my joy of having you here.
Thank you.
So you've humbled me.
Oh, thank you.
Can I say that she's humbling? You know, that's kind of a thing to say.
I'm honored. I really am.
All right.
I'm
After
honored.
this, okay. Now we can.
Now we can get to it.
Now we can leave. So that's a cut.
That's it.
All right.
But I met you the first time in that studio in Passaic, right? We were doing the music video, and I knew about you. No, actually, I met you with Shankar at Dreamland in Malibu.
Oh my God, that's right.
That's where I first met you, backstage.
No, it was in the parking lot. You and I keep crossing trails in parking lots.
Oh,
if you remember, they wouldn't let me paint in that shrine.
Right. Oh, yes. The shrine of that art. Like, I can't even say the word art and that place because it's an assault. No offense.
We'll cut the player hate now, but they wouldn't let me. So I had to paint in the parking lot, which turned out to be fabulous. It was a gift. Everything seems to be a gift.
You never know.
I knew that art was going to be in my life, and I knew it because at that time, my sisters and I lived on a yacht in San Pedro, this big sailboat, and
by yourselves or with your family?
Another story. Just the three of us, and then the parents were there somewhere. When I was a junior in high school, my dad took me down to Chenard's, which was a very famous art school in LA. It became California Institute of the Arts eventually. Disney had built it so that he could farm out artists for his animation studios.
Oh, okay.
At this Chenard's art school.
Okay. So it was sort of like a grooming place for that.
He financed this thing from the late 30s.
Wow.
Anyway, but almost all the sort of relevant artists from Southern California went to Chenard's.
Interesting.
And so, 14 years old, I was enrolled in this new drawing class, and so I go in, and here was this amazing, beautiful nude, a huge mountain of a woman, right, nude. At 14, I go, no, I can just stare at this nude woman, I go, this is, so anyway, so for half an hour, I just sat in the front row and stared at her, and then so I go, okay, Norton, now it's time to get out your pencil and your paper, and so I get it out, and I'm ready to start drawing, and this shaggy beatnik walks in, with a moth-eaten sweater and sandals, goes, I want everybody to put away your tools, put away your pencils and your paper, and go home and call Hiroshima and talk to somebody who experienced the bomb.
Really?
And I go, what the fuck is he talking about? Go call Hiroshima. I'm living with my single mom, and I can't call from home. How many quarters is it going to cost me to call Hiroshima? So anyway, at 14, I'm struggling with this, this my introduction to political justice, to social justice, right? With this professor, and he turned out to be the instructor of the class, John Altoon, who was a very important artist.
John Altoon.
Yeah.
Okay.
A very important artist and an amazing draftsman. Anyway, so that was the beginning of the.
So what did you do? You've started the story. You must finish. Did you ever call someone who experienced Hiroshima, or did you find anybody here?
Listen, I have
Not to digress,
No,
but-
all of a sudden, no, I didn't. And I'm
Oh.
sorry, I got a C in the class because of that.
Oh,
No, I
no,
didn't.
okay.
I didn't call, and I'm still ashamed that I didn't call.
Oh, but it's a tough,
I
it's
know.
tough. You would
Yeah,
have,
you were tough. I'm gonna have to remember that, and not to bring up anything that I failed at. You'll hold it against me. So anyway.
Yes.
I worked this John Altoon and actually hung out with the beatniks all through high school and really developed a sense of social responsibility because beatniks were very much about, not taking anything for granted.
okay.
There was countercultural sort of accusations of the status quo.
Right.
That's what you could say about
A beatnik.
A beatnik.
That, not just an aesthetic sense, but it was also
And
like
everything in
political,
life.
yeah.
The beatnik approach to life was about that everything had to be a personal decision.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? You couldn't rely on anybody else's values. You know what I mean? To do what was important in your life choices. So anyway, so that was my journey in high school. And then,
We'll talk
you
about
went
that.
to
So we're going
Beverly
to
Hills
parlay
High?
that back
Beverly
into
High.
the
And there
art.
were
So in a minute.
So after high school, I ended up at Berkeley.
Uh-huh.
And at Berkeley, I was at first, when I was up there, I turned my back on art. I said, no, that's, you know what I mean? So I got into computer science. This was in the late 60s when computer science was just getting going. It was all punch cards.
Uh-huh.
It was, computers were
Giant, yeah.
of buildings, right?
Wow.
And then I was into physics. I got into physics. Berkeley was, at that time was they actually had a parking lot for Nobel Prize winners.
Wow.
At Berkeley.
Wow.
So it was a
Wasn't
big
that,
fair.
because I did see Oppenheim, right?
Oppenheim was at,
And he was at UC Berkeley.
not
and
when
that's
I was there, but he was there.
before, that was like in the
But Teller was
40s.
there when I was there. Teller was the guy that, in that movie, was the guy that, double-crossed Oppenheimer. Yeah, Teller
interesting.
was, if anything, don't remember me as knowing Teller. That's the
Okay.
last thing, because he was
Ooh.
kind of a dick.
Okay.
But I met Teller through Coppola, who wrote the Tao of Physics. I was telling you, anyway.
Yes.
So physics was really a kind of a wonderful. It was just unfolding these amazing sort of ideas about the nature of reality,
Uh-huh.
and what is human consciousness and its relationship to physics and reality. And indeed, this was a big melting pot, a big stew of ideas at this time in Berkeley at the late 60s. And anyway, so this was all going on, and then I kind of felt that computers at that time, computer language was actually designed by the military. So
Okay.
Fortran and C and all these other languages were military languages. And at that time, we were in Vietnam, and so it was anything that had to do with violence against our fellow man was it was so repulsive that I drifted out of computer science because of its relationship to the military
Interesting.
into art.
But they were probably funding a lot of the studies. They were
about-
funding, yeah. Well, that's a whole other
You
story.
mean making bombs at Lawrence Radiation Lab? Yes. Berkeley has a dark history. Lawrence Radiation Lab is where they were making weapons.
Wow.
So I have to,
Interesting.
now
I know
that
that's
you
where
brought
they-
it up again. See, every time I try to think how.
It's the journalist in
Oh
me.
my
What can I do?
God.
All right, so
I'm
let's,
gonna walk out, when this is over, you're gonna throw the whole file in that guy was a dick,
no.
Berkeley was making bombs. It's shameful. Lawrence
Wow.
Radiation Lab was a big player, and Los Alamos. Los
Right.
Alamos was also in Oppenheimer film.
Right.
All my friends that were in physics at that time were disappeared into Los Alamos. They
Yeah.
all just, they were just vacuumed up and disappeared into that dark hole.
Interesting.
So Berkeley has a
I was near there recently. I have a musician client who lives in Santa Fe, and I was not too far from there. Yeah.
Yeah, you should get a Geiger counter. You should do.
Oh, haha.
Before I let you in there,
I didn't go up the mountain towards Los Alamos. No.
The downwind. Were you downwind?
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway, so I drifted back in the art and got involved with this guy Peter Volkus, who's he changed ceramics from a craft into a fine art.
Okay.
Peter Voulkos in the late 50s
Okay.
had taken a regular pot and put a hole in it, so it was no longer functional. And that one simple act elevated ceramics to a fine art, just by that simple.
Interesting.
But also, he was an amazing abstract painter, Peter Voulkos. And so he not only did he put a hole in it, but he twisted it and bent it into forms that are profound and moving and you know, they're objects that look like they've always existed. You know, created by some volcanic you know, explosion.
Wow.
Peter Voulkos. Anyway, so I worked with him for 5 years in his bronze foundry. So I did a lot of bronze work, you know, working with him. And then I got back into figures because of John Altoon and figure drawing,
Right.
and then doing the bronze work. So I started doing bronze figures, and bronze figures need bases. Figures needs bases. You can't do a figure without putting it on something.
Right.
You have to mount it on something, and so I put it on these trapezoidal bases, these truncated pyramids. Right. You know, there's a couple around here you see.
Yes, we're going to take a look at that later, but yes, continue.
Anyway, so I put it on these bronze figures on these bases, and by the late 60s, what we were doing in Vietnam was so repulsive that I no longer thought that celebrating the human form
On a
was
pedestal.
violent. I thought that what we were doing to our fellow man was nothing to be celebrated. So I stopped doing the figures, but I had all these bases, these truncated bases, right? I said, I thought this is kind of interesting because we were all into conceptual art. It was really coming to the foreground. Conceptual art. Berkeley was kind of a lot of that time at Berkeley. Almost every artist in the world was going through Berkeley because it was kind of a big sort of, for people who were into social justice, artists which sort of always kind of sort of, or believe in that they're all, I would say, socialists or gravitate towards
Humanitarian.
They basically, I think that's the nature of art.
Yeah.
Is, you know what I mean?
For all.
Our fellow man.
Yes.
Is we're all equal.
Yes.
Before whatever deity you decide. Anyway, they were all coming through Berkeley. Everybody from New York, all the big players were going, and all the big filmmakers too. I took classes from Godard and Noir.
Wow.
And Buñuel, they were all there.
Wow.
So
what an amazing time to be, I think that's probably the best time ever to have attended that.
It gives me the chills just to think.
Yeah.
I remember taking in a seminar with Godard, the person next to me asked Godard, which was part of what we're experiencing here in my studio. Somebody asked Godard, well, do you think films have a beginning, a middle, and an end? And he said, yes, I think they do, but not in that order.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you look around what I do, there's no order.
No.
I mean, there's no beginning and end.
Yeah.